We are Glivolu, a mutated species of Rumans created by the magic that flows through the empire of Magia. While still gifted with magical powers and abilities like normal Rumans in Magia, the Glivolu have evolved to become something else, something more. To our tribe, I am known as Daemar, though most Glivolu recognize me by my title or occupation. You see, not all Glivolu are beasts, and not all of us are fighters. I am most recognized for my position as head of the council and right hand to the Great Wolf. In the civil war that is brewing right here in Magia, I will be far from battle. This doesn't mean that my hands will be clean. It just means that some of us are more suited for strategy and planning than actual war itself. Us on the council will leave the fighting to those Glivolu born with the powers to stand up to the might of the Magia Empire and their leader, Claudius. Claudius was born the most fortunate of the Rumans in Magia. As far as the Glivolu know, he is invincible and incredibly strong. Many believe to stand up against him is suicide, but our leader is the only one who stands practically on even footing with the Emperor. Which brings us back to Neron, the Great Wolf. I've spent more time with our leader than most, and I can assure you he is our best chance of taking over Magia. Whether our careful planning will be enough to dethrone Claudius remains to be seen, but if there was ever a chance to do it, this is the one. The Great Wolf was unlike any Glivolu born before him, large in stature, fearless, and just as powerful and indestructible as Claudius. These two titans are on a collision course that will set off a chain reaction that will change the landscape of Ruma forever. Who is standing after the dust settles will determine who will lead Magia against Sybil, the cyborg goddess who rules the north. It was rumored for a long time that there would be civil war in Magia, but no one could confirm or deny the rumors until just a few nights ago. After a meeting with the council, I received word that Neron was looking for me. When the Great Wolf summons you, you answer the call, and despite how late in the night it was, I made my way over to where I was told to meet Neron. When I entered the building, a small home built into a tree in one of our many forests, I was shocked to see many Glivolu guards stationed inside. They quickly ushered me into a room in the back, where the last thing I ever could expect to be waiting for me was there. Not only was it the Great Wolf, but standing across from him was the Emperor of Magia himself, Claudius. They were not the only players involved in this meeting either. Though neither of them really needed an entourage to protect them, I believe these other players were there to be witnesses. A role that I assumed was mine to play as well, and the reason Neron summoned me here. I immediately recognized the others in the room. As head of the council, I felt it necessary to be knowledgeable of other potential threats in the Empire. To Claudius's right was the head of his militia, Tiberius, and to his left was the head of his own personal council, Sai. Sai was a Ruman living in Magia that many Glivolu felt strongly about, either in a good way or a bad way. Sai was mostly human in appearance, but many believed he was a vampire. Vampires seem like something that would make you more Glivolu than Ruman, so our people believed he was fighting for the wrong side. So the negative views towards Sai came from those Glivolu, while others appreciated that there was Glivolu representation in the Empire, and head of the council no less. All that being said, Sai's involvement in the Empire was a thorn in my side. The comparison between us both being leaders of our respective councils was the basis for constant conversation I had to have every day, and to be honest, a major headache. Needless to say, I was not overjoyed to see him present in this meeting. The moment I stepped foot into the room, I rushed to our side of the table. I would take on the spot beside Neron across from Sai, while the other representative here was a woman named Luna. Her magic mutation gave her a snake-like appearance, and many believed she was both blessed and chosen by Echidna, the snake goddess. While I stood Neron's most trusted advisor and strategist, Luna did Neron's dirty work. Luna was an assassin whose methods, while effective, I did not always approve of. However, she got the job done, and that was good enough for Neron, so it had to be good enough for me. If nothing else, her presence here had to make those from the Empire nervous. Poison was her specialty, and while we were still unsure if her poison would kill Claudius, the others in the room had to be careful not to touch anything. Which, to be fair, as the last one arriving to this meeting, I felt the need to do the same. I was not informed if she was up to her usual antics, and therefore nothing was safe, even for me. The choices of representatives overall was interesting. Tiberius could not provide anything that Claudius himself could do, but the fact that Tiberius led the Magia militia was a message enough, I'm sure, and a message well received by Neron, no doubt. Sai's presence was no doubt more of a mind game since they knew that I would be here. However, instead of bringing more muscle, Neron bringing Luna was a factor I'm sure the Emperor did not expect, hence the uneasy feeling by both parties. Though Luna not hiding in the shadows could be an unironic comfort. The mediator in the room, since neither Sai or myself could do it, was a fairy by the name of Egeria, though mediation seemed like something that would quickly get thrown out the window if used at all, an assumption that was correct the moment I stepped beside Neron. You could tell Egeria was ready to get started, but the Emperor had other plans. I appreciate you agreeing to meet with us, Neron. I wish it was under better circumstances. The rumors you plan to go to war with the Empire are reaching my ears more frequently, and I believe it is in your people's best interest to cease your preparations. Claudius never took his eyes off Neron as he spoke. The Glivolu leader did the same. I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about, Emperor. But if the Glivolu were planning to go to war with the Empire, I would start fortifying my defenses if I were you. A grin appeared on the Emperor's face. Standing this close to both of these Rumans considered legends in the eyes of many was strange enough as it was, but it was easy to see the level of respect the two had for each other, even if they weren't allowed to show it all the time. It felt as if they both got great enjoyment out of this meeting, and the war was something they both wanted. As head of one of the two councils involved, I couldn't help but think of the Glivolu and the Rumans. They would suffer the most just for these two to settle who is the strongest between them. Claudius spoke again, interrupting my thoughts. Empty threats will only get you so far, Neron. There is no way in its current state the Glivolu army could even get inside the Empire, let alone defeat us. Our defenses are fine, and if you wanted to have a chance, you would be setting different terms as to where this battle would be held. Neron took a glance at Luna before responding. The simple gesture brought a slight concern to Sai's face, and I think only I noticed. When the time comes for civil war, Emperor, we will be skipping formalities like this one. We won't be knocking at your door. We'll be walking over it. If we choose to take Magia for the Glivolu, it will be too late for you to realize the war had even begun. Cowardice from the great wolf, Claudius scoffed. Not how I expected this meeting to go. Ha! Neron put his hands down and leaned over the table, getting as close to Claudius as he could. Trust me, Emperor. Your city may not know it's in a war if we decide to attack, but I'll make sure you're at your best and ready for when I end your reign. I couldn't help but realize this conversation might not go anywhere, so I made my way over to where Egeria was standing to help me get everyone's attention. Perhaps open threats and growling at each other isn't the most productive way to progress a meeting about a potential war that will not only affect the two leaders. I realize I came in a bit strong, but it worked and drew the attention of everyone in the room. I think if civil war were to happen, it makes sense there should be predetermined stakes. I'm listening, said the Emperor, much to my surprise. Go on, added the Great Wolf. Well, I continued, the stakes are up to you two. I was merely making a suggestion. If the Empire defeats the Glivolu, what is it that you would want from us, Claudius? Surviving Glivolu must rejoin the Empire and aid us in the inevitable war with Sibyl and Mecca in the north. While the Empire is strong on its own, I think together we have a chance. Plus, these forests out in this part of Magia have magical resources that we don't have in the Empire. I looked around the room to see if there were any objections, but most importantly, I checked Neron's face. It barely changed as he continued to remain focused on Claudius. It seems those are fair terms. I looked at our leader, a bit concerned. The Great Wolf, Neron, leader of the Glivolu. What are your terms if the Glivolu win? Neron finally leaned off the table and crossed his arms. He glanced over at me for a moment, before locking eyes with the Emperor again.
If, no, when the Glivolu win, the Rumans that survive in Magia must be exiled from the continent.